Hello, welcome back to Going to Ground. I'm in the kitchen this evening because I'm puppy minding while Rebecca is on a Zoom call in the other room. Effie, who you saw or met for the first time a couple of weeks ago or maybe a month ago, is flat out. You just see Effie on the carpet. She's put on 1 kilogram in the last week. Imagine if you or I had put on 1 kilogram in the last week. There'd be something very concerning indeed about that. But I'm advised that that's entirely normal. And but let's hope that doesn't continue for too long. Otherwise, we will be in all sorts of trouble. Already, as it is, it's quite hard to bring her, to carry her into the house if we need to pull her away from something. Anyway, I'm having just a little read. I haven't had a read of theology for quite a while, actually. And I'm reading this classic book, lovely old book called Lux Mundi, written at the turn of the 20th century. It was a really important collection of essays, actually, as the church tried to grapple with the developments in society following Darwin's theories and the advance of science and modernity in ways that questioned its assumptions at a really seismic level. And it was one of the principal engagements with culture that the church did at that time. It's a significant book historically, and I'm reading it tonight because Charles Gore, who edited it and wrote some of it, previous former Bishop of Worcester and founder of the College of the Resurrection, is commemorated today. He died today in 1932. And I've dipped into Lux Mundi before, but I haven't really read it closely. And I've just read a chapter by Gore, and some really great stuff here about the church. It's really helpful, actually, to me as I reckon with the church in all its imperfections, including my own. I've always been my faith is very much focused on the coming of the kingdom to the world, the coming of the kingdom of heaven to this world, and seeing the transformation of the whole world and the hope for human society. And the church is a very provisional and fallen agent to that end. Holy, yes, and all that the creed affirms it to be: one, holy, Catholic, apostolic, but a very fallible one, and a fallible, broken vessel. And I still believe that very, very strongly. But it's always easier perhaps to love God than love the church at times anyway. And this is an encouragement to me, reading Gore, because he's describing how and why we should love the church. I say why we should love the church, and only so if you're a believer, and but whether you are or not, it might be of interest to you. And a couple of little bits I might just read to you from this that I think are really quite powerful. He writes, "The visible church," that's the church we know, that we see, "has to be born with, because it is the Spirit's purpose to provide a home for the training and improvement of the imperfect." It's this idea of the church as a kind of school for learning to live out Christ's way together with other people with whom we probably are very different, from whom we're probably very different, and with whom we disagree much of the time. And therefore, he continues, "It is her note to be tolerant, morally and theologically. She is the mother, not the magistrate." That's important, isn't it? No doubt this balanced duty is a difficult thing to one to fulfill. At times she has been puritanical, at others morally lax, at times doctrinally lax, at others rigid. But however well or ill she has fulfilled the obligations laid on her, this is her ideal. And then he writes, the church is the probation of faith as well as its encouragement. I thought that was a great line. The church is the probation of faith as well as its encouragement. So when you begin a job, you have a probationary period, which is a sort of testing out, isn't it, of a trial period to see if you fit it. And the church is the probation, it's the testing, it's the trial of faith. It is this, as I say, the school in which we've given, which is given to us to rehearse our faith and have it tested. That was really instructive, I think, to me. And this finally as well, a couple of pages later, in talking about the importance of the Christian life as a social thing, and the church being the society in which we work this faith out, for better or for worse. And Gore writes, the spiritual life of the church assures me that in desiring union with God, in feeling the burden of sin, in hungering for redemption, I'm not doing an abnormal, eccentric thing. I'm only doing what belongs to the best and richest movement of humanity. I'll read that again. I think that's best of the lot, actually. Spiritual life, the church assures me that in desiring union with God, in feeling the burden of sin, in hungering for redemption, I'm not doing an eccentric, abnormal thing. I'm only doing what belongs to the best and richest movement in humanity. That's really helpful, because that to me has been the great consoling gift of the church. And when I discovered the church for myself as a young adult, it was very much that here was a kind of refuge in which the things that I was feeling deeply, that need, the need for help actually, the need for help from God, reckoning with my own mistakes, reckoning with my own imperfections, and longing for redemption, not just for myself, but the way life is and the state of society. That here was a home where those things weren't weird to address or own or admit. But here was the society in which it was normal. In fact, it was essential that we talked about those things, not as side issues, but as the only really material things that should be talked about. Our need for redemption, our need for salvation. Here was a grammar, a way of talking about it, of normalizing what felt deeply normal, but I knew was weird, was eccentric, was abnormal in regular, everyday society. And for all its imperfections, the church provides a home for that, and therefore must be borne with as we share that treasure together. So thank God for Charles Gore, and I commend him to you. More soon, I'm sure. God bless you as you go to ground.